On July 11, 2011, an AN-24 RV aircraft operated by Angara Airlines was conducting a domestic regular passenger flight 5007 on behalf of Tomskavia Airlines on the route Tomsk-Surgut. Flight 5007 departed Tomsk at 10:10. On board were 4 crew members and 33 passengers. After 1 hour and 26 minutes of flight, while cruising at an altitude of 6,000 meters, the cockpit warning light for metal particles in oil activated for the left engine. The flight engineer reported this at 11:36, but the engine parameters remained normal. The crew continued the flight and, 4 minutes later, entered the responsibility zone of Nizhnevartovsk Air Traffic Control, establishing contact with the approach controller at 11:40. Following the communication, the captain asked the co-pilot for the distance to Surgut and Nizhnevartovsk. The co-pilot reported that Surgut was 320 kilometers away, while Nizhnevartovsk was 157 kilometers. At 11:44, the captain detected the smell of burning in the cockpit, informed the crew, and decided to divert to Nizhnevartovsk as an alternate airport. The co-pilot informed air traffic control and received permission to descend to 4,800 meters. The left engine was set to flight idle, and its air bleed was shut off. During descent, oil pressure in the left engine began to drop but then stabilized at the minimum level. At 11:49, the aircraft leveled at 4,800 meters and received clearance to descend further to 1,800 meters. To reduce flight time, controllers allowed the crew to take a direct course to Nizhnevartovsk Airport. However, at 11:52, while descending at an altitude of 3,600 meters and 77 kilometers from the airport, the warning light for dangerous vibration of the left engine activated. Following the captain's command, the flight engineer shut down the left engine, feathered the propeller, closed the fire valve, and activated the propeller feathering system. After visually confirming the feathering, the captain observed flames from under the engine cowling. Simultaneously, the fire alarm and the first-stage fire suppression system activated. The flight engineer shut off the fuel pumps and closed the fuel valve for the left engine, but the fire persisted and soon engulfed the left engine. At 11:53, 63 kilometers from Nizhnevartovsk, the crew reported the fire to the dispatcher. The flight engineer activated the second-stage fire suppression system, but the fire was not extinguished. At this point, the captain decided to perform an emergency descent and ditched the aircraft in the Ob River, visible through a break in the clouds. The emergency descent was conducted with a left turn and a bank angle exceeding 30 degrees. Before landing, the flight engineer shut down the right engine and feathered its propeller. At 11:56, at a speed of 240 km per hour, Flight 5007 ditched in the Ob River, 17 kilometers from Strezovoy Airport. During the ditching, the left engine partially disintegrated, and the left landing gear was torn off. As the aircraft moved along the river, it struck underwater obstacles. The impact caused the lower fuselage to rupture, and water pressure tore off the tail section. The upper fuselage panels were destroyed and deformed. The passenger cabin was partially flooded. Evacuation occurred through an emergency hatch in the cockpit and a fissure in the tail section. All surviving passengers exited the aircraft with assistance from the crew and local residents, including fishermen in motorboats. To transport rescuers to the crash site, 3 ferries from Strezovoy and 3 helicopters from Nizhnevartovskavia were deployed. Of the 37 people on board, 7 passengers died. The remaining 30 survivors, including all 4 crew members, suffered injuries of varying severity. An unusual fact is that the aircraft wreckage was not fully retrieved from the water until 8 days later. When the cockpit was finally accessed, a lost cat named Romashka jumped out, ran into the forest, and eventually approached people. For a month and a half, the cat survived numerous dangers, including the crash, potential drowning, starvation, and wandering through the forest. An investigation was launched under Article 263, Part 3, of the Russian Criminal Code, addressing violations of transportation safety rules. The Western Siberian Transport Prosecutor's Office concluded that the crashed aircraft should not have been allowed to operate. 2 officials were disciplined. The Interstate Aviation Committee, IAC, conducted a technical investigation, publishing its final report on December 11, 2013. The AN-24 RV crash occurred during an emergency water landing, necessitated by a fire in the left engine nacelle. The aircraft's destruction resulted from underwater collisions, which the crew could neither foresee nor prevent. The fire likely resulted from a pressurization failure in the left engine supercharging system, causing an air oil emulsion to ignite in the nacelle. Contributing factors included the late detection of the fire and insufficient action to extinguish it due to inadequate information. In response, IAC recommended improvements in maintenance procedures and flight operation manuals for the AN-24. However, no day of mourning was declared in Tomsk Oblast due to the national mourning for the Bulgaria ship disaster victims on July 12. President Dmitry Medvedev stated, "If the crew acted competently, it's a reason to commend them for saving many lives despite the crash." However, he reiterated the need to phase out outdated AN-24 aircraft on passenger routes. This suggestion faced criticism due to the logistical challenges of replacing nearly 124s in operation across Russia. In the end, restrictions were introduced in 2012 for aircraft lacking ground collision and air collision warning systems. The crash of Angara Airlines Flight 5007 serves as a tragic reminder of the critical importance of strict aircraft maintenance protocols and regular modernization of aviation equipment. Despite facing an extremely challenging situation, including an engine fire and the need for an emergency water landing, the crew's actions were instrumental in saving most of the passengers. This incident highlighted the significance of professionalism and the swift response of both the crew and local rescue teams. However, it also revealed serious shortcomings in the aircraft's maintenance and failure warning systems. The investigation's findings emphasized the need to update the fleet, adhere to stricter maintenance procedures, and improve diagnostic systems for potential malfunctions. This event stands as a valuable lesson for the aviation industry, underscoring the importance of investing in safety measures and preparing crews for handling extreme emergencies.